Hello and welcome to Only at the Studio. It's our new podcast and this is episode 1 with the posse. Me, Louise.
Hi, I'm John.
I'm Keith.
I'm Jane.
And I'm Jed.
And we've got a guest with us today. It's Hayley Ellis. Hello, Hayley.
Hello.
Oh, that was a nice clean, I've done a podcast before.
Very professional, Louise.
Very good. So, Hayley, we wanted you to be our guest because you not only have you visited the studio here in Widnes, where we're operating from, run by Luce, the charity. You've been here as a comedian, you've done shows. We know you're a great performer, a great MC, but you also have your own podcast.
I do, Louise. Thank you for mentioning it. It's called Don't Tell Anyone But, and it's a podcast about people's guilty pleasures. So I've been doing that since November, and then I did another podcast before that, and I've also been guest on podcasts, so thank you for having me on.
Well, you sound like the perfect guest for us to have because we know very little about podcasts, even though we're venturing into one. So I know a couple of the posse would like to ask you some questions.
The posse? You sound like the Bash Street Kids.
We are.
We are the Bash Street Kids.
We're not. I'm Beryl.
Dragging off the street.
Go on then, posse.
Well, I'd like to ask Hayley.
Yes.
I really don't understand what a podcast is. I've heard people talking about them. Cause some stuttering. I find it difficult to understand the difference between a radio show and a podcast. So could you explain a little bit of why you do podcasts even?
So yeah, basically a podcast is a radio show but without songs really.
Right.
So it's basically if you've got a long car journey. What I use podcasts for myself is if I've got a long car journey, because I do a lot of driving in this job, being a comedian, you stick a podcast on and you've got like an hour show that's uninterrupted, no adverts, no songs, on a subject that you're interested in. So you can search, for podcasts. What are you interested in?
Oh, that was on the spot. The history of Pearl Jam.
It's very niche. Not sure there's many podcasts out there.
The history of strawberry jam.
Yeah.
All right, the history of strawberry jam.
Probably more likely that's there. So if you were looking for Pearl Jam, you'd type in Pearl Jam. You'd probably find podcasts, people talking about Pearl Jam. You could listen to them. You got like half an hour, 40 minutes uninterrupted on something that you like to listen about. It's great.
Cool. So a podcast, not a Pearl Jam. Podcast. How do you know how many people download it? Is that the thing?
Yeah, so people download it or stream it, and you can check online and see what your stats are. So that's heartbreaking. You can look online and see what's listening, and different episodes attract different people. But yeah.
Why did you? What first made you get into it? What kind of triggered it for you to get into podcasting?
Because I listen to a lot of them when I'm driving, like I say. And there's a lot of comics doing their own sort of podcast. So I thought, I'd quite like to get involved. I do a lot of stuff on radio. And this is a sort of do my own little radio show, really, I guess, which is I'm self-producing it. So I've got complete control over it, which I like. So, yeah, it's fun. On my show, I chat to different comedians each week. So I can have a laugh doing it and as well as putting it out there for other people to listen to.
So what's the difference between the one that you're doing now, Don't Tell Anyone But, and the other one that you used to do previous? Is there a huge difference in the content? Or?
So we did a podcast, myself and two other comedians, Victoria Cook and Shay Taylor. We did a podcast called Get Happy, which we didn't produce ourselves. That was produced by someone else, Abrupt Audio. So they sort of looked after it all for us. And we just recorded the episodes, and that was about looking at different ways each week, ways that can make you happier. So we'd rate our current happiness levels, then we'd do a technique in that episode, whether it be laughter yoga or ASMR and things like that, and then we'd rate our happiness levels after. Whereas my podcast at the minute is produced by myself. I've got no help with it, I just do everything. And it's me chatting to comics about what their guilty pleasures are. So what's your guilty pleasure TV show?
Probably Law and Order UK.
Right, wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. ITV3, late at night. Very big fan.
Big fan
Yeah.
of the murders.
TV in the bedroom.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
anything related to that. Although I'm a very peaceful living person myself.
I do well.
Yeah.
We'll take your word for that.
What about the technical side of things? And you do all that as well, the recording.
Yeah, so I, excuse me, I record either in a studio, like yourselves are doing. So I've got a studio that I hire out in Media City that I record, or I've got all the equipment myself and I record that on a HX Zoom microphone.
Oh, yes.
With external mic leads. I record that, so I'll either go to people's houses, or when I was on tour with Sarah Milliken, I recorded an episode in a hotel room. So, you know, just as and where you can get opportunities to interview people, I'll try and fit it in around that.
And people like Sarah, they kind of up for doing an episode with you.
Yeah, Sarah's one, I was on tour with her, so she's a really busy lady, so I was lucky enough that I had a bit of time with her because she doesn't get much free time at all, so we sort of fitted it in between the tour date, so that was useful to do. And most people enjoy doing them, so when I ask comics, usually if I say, can you do it, they'll go, oh yeah, I'd love to do it, I'm busy this week, when can you fit me in or whatever. So yeah, most people are quite forthcoming.
Is it mostly comics you have on as guests?
Yeah, I've been trying to I'm trying to branch out and get like actors and musicians involved and stuff like that. But because I'm not in that industry, it's, you know, you look like a mentalist just going, do you want to come on my podcast? Because you could be anyone, couldn't you?
Yeah.
So I don't, you know, do you want me to come to your house and chat to you? So yeah, it's more difficult. Whereas as a comedian, I'm known for doing that, so it's easier.
And what's been the best one you've been a guest on?
I've been a guest. Oh, I did Ed Miliband's and Jeff Lloyd's Reasons to be Cheerful. That was fun. It's fun having a chat with Ed about people on public transport. Yeah, that was really good fun. Most podcasts I do. Obviously, Only at the Studio is my favourite so far.
Oh, be the best one.
Yes.
Did you have a bacon butty with it?
He didn't know. No bacon butty. It's so easy for you to get one up there. Like you say, you can just record it on your iPhone, which I know some people do. I know Justin Morehouse, when he does his podcast, he records certain bits on his iPhone because when he's at a gig, he'll say, can I grab you for 5 minutes? And we'll go and stand in a corridor and he'll chat on his iPhone just because we're there. It's easy to do. And then he gets a sort of feeler of what it's like backstage at gigs. So, yeah, you know, it's easy to do. It's relatively cheap. You know, you just need a phone if you've got one. And you can just upload it. I think you have to pay to be on a server, so I pay so much a month for that. It's not a lot. Yeah, it's an easy thing to do. If you want better quality, though, you know, you've got to invest, I think.
What do you find the best way of listening to it? Is it always headphones for you? 'Cause I'm a bit of a headphone phobe.
No, I just listen to it in the car on the speaker.
Just yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always is it mostly in the car?
Mostly driving, because I drive for like 3-4 hours a day. Well, more than that a night. So I like to listen to a wide range because I'm listening to Harriet Dyer, who's also been on at the studio. She's a comedian. She's got her podcast. So I was listening to that on the way in. And then I've got a long drive later, so I'll listen to one of my true crime ones. I like a story. So sometimes when you pull up in the car, you think, oh, I'm looking forward to the drive home now because I've got another podcast to listen to.
Yeah. Lovely. What do you think us at the studio then should be including in our podcast? Because we are just starting out. It's our first episode, and I'm sure it'll change as we go on. We are aiming to do one a month. We realise people will be downloading it at any time, so obviously it's not about advertising what's coming up. What do you think we should be including?
You know what? Because you've got such a wide berth of entertainment on at the studio. It would be nice for you to do little interviews with people who are here. So when you've got shows coming in, you can do little chats with them. You've got lots of musos coming in, haven't you? And stand-ups and stuff. So just grabbing them. Like when Jed does his stand-up at the studio, you know, you've got the opportunity to speak to comics there and ask them stuff.
So one of the things we might do in the future is had Matchbox Rugby in a podcast. Hayley Ellis, is this going to work?
No.
Okay, we're going to carry on
I don't
anyway.
even know what Matchbox Rugby is.
Well, Jane might be able to tell us.
Yeah,
Jane's
you're
played
flipping.
a game with Phil.
Now, I'm glad you'd all see it because I actually played Matchbox Rugby 2 weeks ago with Phil. And I didn't know what to expect, but it was a little matchbox. I think you can commentate on this, couldn't you? You could have
I
someone
think so,
commentating
yeah,
on the thing.
definitely.
Well, you'd
So
have
what
to,
it is-
otherwise you wouldn't know what was going
I
on.
wouldn't really know.
Hang on a minute. Is this where Widnes Vikings have ended up?
I mean,
Let's
it
hope
is,
so.
yeah.
Anyway, let's get to the point, Jane. Get to the point. People have fallen asleep.
Yeah.
So all it is, it's a matchbox.
Half a
Do you remember
matchbox.
half a matchbox? Do you remember Subbuteo?
Yeah.
We used to flick it.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've got goals at the either side, rugby goals at
They've
the
been
either
made
end of the table.
Wooden made by
There's
a
little lines that they've been
carpenter.
made. So what you have to do is you have to play a little game of rugby, and you get points by flicking like that sound effects. The Matchbox nearest to the line where the rugby goal thing is, stick thing.
Try-line.
I'm a football fan. And then, if you get it on the line, then you take a goal kick.
Yeah.
And that is the exciting thing, because you can score over the sticks, which I did. And it is. Do you know what? I am laughing. Well, no one else is, but I am. But I think it's quite a good little game, and I'm going to get our little kids to play it. Not just kids off the street, kids we work with.
I'm just not sure how that would work on
okay, Hayley, I'll take your.
Because all you're going to hear is just like click.
No, but if you could. If you could commentate it amusingly in different...
So maybe if we ask our guest to do commentary...
I'm not commentating on that.
We haven't got a game yet, so it's all right, Hayley, let's stand down. But we could ask our guest to do commentary on
I think it could catch on.
Matchbox Rugby.
I think you could have a Matchbox podcast in the
anyway,
future.
good luck with your podcast.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, swiftly
move on quick.
And then we could do it.
Forget that then.
Cardboard box tennis. There's another one for you.
You can measure how you lose the audience.
Yeah, you can.
Joining me now is Wayne Cookson, who is running the creative writing course down at the studio in Lacey Street. Wayne, tell us a little bit about creative writing. Who's it aimed at, first of all?
It's aimed at the local people of Widnes and Runcorn, and our aim is to bring in very talented writers into the studio so that I can work with them.
But it wouldn't matter if you had no experience, you'd give them the assistance to start off in creative writing.
Absolutely. I taught at a secondary school, GCSE and A-level, lots of creative writing experience. I've written a novel myself. All they need to do is turn up and we will do the rest.
So that's on a Friday, 1 to 3. Let's imagine when I was coming down, what would I need with me? Just paper and pen?
Yes, a lot of people bring a pad and a pen. Some people bring a device like a laptop or a tablet and they write on those, but we provide all the materials that you would need to take part in the session.
So the course is structured to try to meet the needs of almost anyone?
Yes, absolutely. It's based at adults, but yes, it can meet anybody who can get into the studio.
Now, would I be right in thinking it's very small, friendly groups?
Yes, it is. It's a very small, friendly group, around about 6 to 8 people who meet every week, so we all get on very well, very relaxed, very safe environment.
And with a small group of people, you give them lots and lots of individual attention.
Absolutely. We were working with somebody today who brought their piece to us. We all read it because it's a safe environment. We gave him some positives and then we also talked about what he needed to work on, which I will then work with him as well.
But it doesn't matter if you've never done any creative writing before?
Oh no, not at all. As long as you've got an imagination, you come along and we can do the rest for you.
Now, ultimately, Wayne, you publish these stories so that people can see where the finished work?
Yes, they are published around about every 6 to 8 weeks. That's around the time that each kind of topic takes. Then we publish them, and we've even sold some at the bazaars at the Queen's Hall.
So it's the full gamut from the blank page right through to the finished product for sale?
Yes, it is, absolutely, and they were very, very popular. People bought loads, and it's very pleasing to see that people come in with nothing except an idea, they transform it into the written word, it gets published, it gets sold. You can see the whole process happening within 8 weeks.
And potentially the start of a whole new career. And the wonderful thing I always think about writing, Wayne, is your age and all those things utterly irrelevant.
Absolutely. We have got people all sizes, all ages, all different backgrounds, a fantastic group, and it really doesn't matter who you are, where you're from. Come in, we write, you transform your life.
And it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80?
No, it doesn't. No, we run a children's group on Saturday morning, 7 till 11-year-olds, and that runs from 11 to 12:30. And then the adult ones goes right the way up to any age that we want, and that runs on a Friday.
Wayne, thanks very much for that.
Thanks very much, Phil.
Okay, and we're now joined by the choir leader herself, Rebecca, who we've got a couple of questions for. Okay. And I'll start first. Why have you chosen to do this at the Queen's Hall studio, and what do you get out of it?
So originally decided to do this a few years ago, and I approached Louise, and I'd seen a really good TED talk about music, and I've always sung, and I've always been part of groups or shows, and it's always been really beneficial in my life. And I thought, the best way to communicate and bring communities together often is through song. So they didn't have a choir currently at the studio, and I approached Louise and said, "Do you think it would be a good idea?" I was also working with quite a few members of the isolated members of the community at the time, and I thought it might be a good way to sort of join together in song and have a nice Monday evening. Yeah.
So is that your day job? What?
Is that my day? Well, I do singing for Health in Ormskirk as well. I do things different places.
So you're moving around quite a lot.
I am a freelancer.
Yeah. Very good.
But the sort of essence for me was I work quite a lot in sort of like musical theatre industry type thing, and it sort of took the joy out of singing for me for a while.
Right.
And it was a lot of expectation, it was a lot of work, and it wasn't necessarily rewarding. So the whole idea with this is like everybody sings and everyone has a voice, and everyone's voice should be heard.
We think that comes through very much.
Yeah.
It looks very happy.
We have a ball. Yeah.
Right, over to you, Neil, for the last question.
Yeah.
Where do you see the choir heading in 1 year's time, and what are your hopes and expectations?
My
hopes and dreams.
Hopes and dreams. To be honest with you, my hopes and expectations for this choir would just be that it still exists and that people are still coming to it and still coming and enjoying the time and finding their voice. And I think a choir is a beautiful place to be able to let rip, and no one can truly hear exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So there's no worry about mistakes or and if it still exists and people are still coming and still having a good time, I'll be happy. Yeah.
Do you enjoy the live performance, in front of an audience?
I do enjoy the live performances. I think they're good as well because they build, you can build up something. Not too, higher aim, but at least, and also I think, I set quite hard challenges without them always necessarily knowing I've set them a hard challenge until performance day, and then they suddenly realise, oh, holy Christ, this is it's quite hard actually. But I think I think they're good things to do because it pushes us forward. It makes me think, and it makes me be more creative, and I like to see what they would like to sing out of. We do mashups and things like that, so I tend to get creative and mash it up.
That's brilliant. Okay, this is Wayne and Neil from the Creative Writing Group, and we are interviewing tonight the Studio Sings. Please introduce yourselves.
I'm Louise.
I'm Sharon.
I'm Keefe.
I'm Colette.
Lovely, thank you. Over to you, Neil.
First question. What sort of songs do you sing in this choir?
You might be able to hear in the background. We one of the songs we do is Hold Back the River because it's Paul's favourite, and it's not Colette's.
No, it's not. We do a mix, really, don't we? And mashups.
Yeah, we do a mashup, which is like get a particular artist and do a mixture of their songs all mashed together, like we do ABBA, don't we? And we do
Bowie,
Queen,
Queen.
Soft Cell.
Yeah.
Tainted Law.
Human League.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's quite a range.
Quite a range, yeah.
And Twist and Shout.
Oh yeah, a bit of Beatles.
A bit of Beatles mashed up with
Locomotion.
Why am I speaking like that?
So, can you describe to us what happens during a typical session? Do you warm up first, or...?
Yeah, we always do a warm-up. I think the warm-up's quite important. It's probably about... The majority of the session really sometimes can be about 20 minutes, can't it? Because... and I think through so much of the warm-up, it's obviously warming up, but it's a bit of a laff and getting to know each other as well, isn't it?
Yeah. To get everyone settled in.
Yeah. We take a lot of settling in.
I find when you come in, we've all done different things throughout the day, but when you come in, you might have something from work or something from home on your mind, and you come in, you have a laugh, as the girls said, but it loosens you up, and you feel you can give a bit more. I feel then.
Yeah, you forget about everything
you
else.
forget
Because
what's
when you're
going on.
singing, you can't think of anything else, can you?
No.
You can't. No, you've got to concentrate on that. Well, the words and
Pass
stuff.
on the words.
Yeah, we still don't get that right, even when we're reading them.
So once you've warmed up,
Yeah.
is it straight into the songs?
Yeah, it can be. It can be. We'll perhaps go to one that we've done for quite a long time, or because we've been going for a few years now, haven't we, really?
Yeah.
So we might pick something that we're really familiar with, and then Rebecca, who's the leader, she'll introduce something new for us to learn, and then usually by the end of it, she'll ask for choices. What choice? If we've got a request of our repertoire that we want to do, and even then, if there's stuff we want to try, she'll always get it up on her phone on the the speaker.
So you do have a say in what songs are chosen? Yeah. Well, that's
I think when we get a new song as well, we're all sort of a bit uneasy about it, but it's amazing how quickly it comes together. It always amazes me because when we did the Bowie Queen mix, I thought we're never going to get this. And then suddenly, after 2 or 3 weeks, I think this is really good. And it does work then.
Who decides who does which harmonies? Because Neil and I were listening, and they're just beautiful. Does the leader decide?
I think the group decide that, because you get the girls here who can sing, and then you get croaks like me at the end.
I think you kind of know what tone, what level. Like.
We all sort of find our own sort of.
I think that.
Because mine is more like obviously deeper, and then the girls are higher, and then you've got Tom, who's really good
So he
singer.
can sing high, can't he?
He can sing really high as well.
Do you stand with the people that are sort of in your range?
For some songs. Some songs, yeah.
So it must be quite difficult listening
It
to
is,
another harmony.
It is. It throws you off a bit.
We should really do that.
Yeah.
We should do more of that, really.
Maybe I should not stray off so much. I do stray off.
Colette's good at making your own harmonies.
We tend not to sit with Jane
Very
because
good.
it makes you laugh.
Because it sounds beautiful when it all comes together. It sounds very
We don't hear it.
Okay, Neil, over to you.
Do you need to be a good singer to join the choir, or how does practicing make you feel?
So 2 questions there. Do you need to be a good singer?
No.
I'd say no.
That's what it's about, isn't it? It's a community choir to bring everyone together and have a go.
It's like we join any club, football or tennis or whatever. You start off and you don't feel very good at all, but after a while you think, I'm not too bad at this, And when you hear it, you think, God, it sounds great. But so I think, the practice makes it better.
And I think it's that you become, because it is a group, and although we do have new members all the time, you do kind of get a sense of being important to the group, so that it's not that you're trying for the outcome, aren't you? You're trying to get better for the outcome, especially because we do live performances as well. But it makes you feel good because you're needed.
You're part of that group, aren't you?
That's it.
If you weren't all in it together, you wouldn't get that.
I find when I come along and I'm thinking, I live on my own and it's miserable. I've not had my granddaughter, it's miserable. And I get here and I think, I go home and I'm in the car singing the songs and I'm thinking, I'm glad I came tonight.
Definitely.
It just like
my uplifting.
Uplifting.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any time that I've been that I thought, that's made me feel worse. I've never felt worse.
Never.
Brilliant.
But like you say, sometimes make the effort to come, especially
It's
when I was
hard,
working on a Monday.
It's a bit harder,
I didn't a little bit.
That leads nicely on to the next question. Have you ever performed in front of an audience other than yourself? And if you have, what does that feel like?
We've done a good few performances, and we've done some performances here, so it's a bit more relaxed in a way. I mean, it's always a bit nervy, isn't it?
Yes.
But we've done
Victoria Park.
We've done the park. We've done the bandstand. That was one of our first ones, wasn't it? Second one, I think.
Them days you have here.
We've done the bazaars. Yeah, so
Christmas one we did.
Christmas. We've done it on the little stage, the big stage. We've done it on the floor. We've done it outside.
You named it upside down.
We've done a breastfeeding awareness day. Twice.
We did.
So how does it feel when
I
you're
think, as Lou said, when we're all together as a group, it is we support each other, you feel like we're supporting each other.
Do you get nervous?
I think we all get a bit nervous because we all think like we're going to forget the songs.
Yes, and I do that as well. Yeah.
And I think,
But I think because it's at your collective again, you pick it up. You'll pick it up, won't you? Somebody will pick it up if you forget the words.
Yeah.
You'll kind of.
We certainly get the right vibe though. That yes, we want to do it good, and yes, there is an audience listening.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is to show them how we're enjoying it. So if we push it too far and we're not enjoying it, then it's no point. So.
And I always think by doing it, the people who like come to see us, maybe at the studio or in the park or whatever, that we might encourage them to join.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what the whole ethic at the studio, I think, is.
And I think we have had new people
Definitely.
recently from doing stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, over to you now.
Yeah. Well, after hearing the choir during the session, why do you practice sometimes with the music and sometimes without?
I think it's to do with pitching it, isn't
Pitching
it?
key,
Getting the right key and all that kind of thing.
And learning the words.
Yeah, it helps you learn the rest.
Sometimes you sing along with the words, it sticks in your head more. But initially it's to get the right key, you know.
Yeah.
So when you perform live, do you not have the music?
No.
At all?
No.
We have done it. We did do it with a bit of accompaniment, but I think we're better without. I don't know what that means. We're better without the real music. When nobody knows what key we're supposed to be.
I was going to say that must be quite hard.
Well, it is because they're all different pitches, and if I come in at like lonely one, and then I goes and it's all.
We can feel like let's lift it up,
and then the girls go so they get the right pitch to come into.
Does the choir leader sing with you? Or
she sings with us.
And if someone is missing, she'll take their part as well.
Lovely.
And help with the harmonies and lead that way.
Lovely. What night of the week do you generally practice on, and how long does the session last?
Well, Mondays on 6:30 till 8 here at the studio.
Lovely, thank you.
Do you have any upcoming events you can tell us about?
I don't think we do we? I mean, we'll sing at one of the bazaars, probably the April one, maybe.
Easter or something.
Yeah, well, the one before Easter, which is the 14th, we'll probably sing at that one. And one of the things we do want to do is record the songs for the tambourine tots session here, which is like nursery rhymes and things. So we've got a recording that Jane, who runs that, is in the choir as well. She uses this CD, but we kind of thought it'd be nice to have the choir singing it. So
that's brilliant.
But it'll be singing the traditional kind of nursery rhyme. So I think we're going to have a play about with that maybe, and do a bit of recording. So that'll be another experience.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Right. Well, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
So, guys.
Yes.
Jed.
Yes.
What's your name again?
I'll never forget what's his name.
Yeah,
Keefe.
Keefe, that's the one. Right, Jed and Keefe, tell us all about stand-up at the studio.
Go on, my mate.
Okay, so stand-up at the studio came about because, as I've mentioned in the past, I accidentally got into doing a spot of stand-up comedy, and then I very quickly...
Accidentally? How does that work?
I bumped into a chap called Sam Avery, who came to the studio, and he ended up doing a short comedy course with him, and mates and everything now. But at the time, it was a chance meeting, and he fired my sort of creative... I was always doing things like music and writing silly comedy songs and things like that, but then he came along and made it. I always said my running joke is the two things I was always most scared of in life. One was large hairy arachnids, and the other one was telling jokes to people. Because I think it's the loneliest. It can be the loneliest thing, and it was one of those things where you feel yourself being drawn to the edge. Don't do it. Don't. Oh, I'm doing it. So that was the very brief background. I very quickly realised how frustrating it was to not be able to even get any stage time, no matter you could write around, you could drop emails to people and you wouldn't hear back.
So we're going back a bit because
it's about
to be much more accessible now.
3 plus years, at least. And so, about 3.5 years ago it was. So I approached Lou and I said, would it be possible to borrow the studio for a night? Because the great thing about comedy is you don't need a lot of setting up. You just need a microphone. Sometimes people can get away without even that, but you just need a microphone and maybe like a little stage or just a corner of a pub or something. Yeah. Now, we've got a great venue here. So Louise said, yeah, let's do it. So on the 1st of April, the most appropriate date of the year, in 2016, we set up stand-up at the studio, and we thought, oh, that went pretty well. We had a good turnout. So we did it again, and we're coming up this April. It'll be our 3rd birthday party, and our lovely guest, Hayley Ellis, is going to be our headliner. We've got another good mate of ours, Kath Rice, is emceeing for us. So that's how it came about. And the great thing is, it's just I'm proud of is that we've built it up on the circuit. It's quite well known now as an open mic comedy night. So there's been
a lot of comics who've tried out for Edinburgh. They've come here first, haven't they?
Yeah, and exactly. And it is well known. In some ways, it's better known on the circuit than I think it is in Widnes. It's actually better known now, sort of locally, but on the circuit, people know of it, and because it's like a community, as you can imagine. It's like anything in music, and I should imagine it's similar. So that's one thing I am actually proud of. And then we also did like a comedy. We got funding to do a comedy course to help promote self-confidence and stuff, and for anyone to try it, and that was great. That went on for about 3 months, and we had a great show. And that's when Keith turned up, because Keith was like me and Keith and Louise. We've been doing plays and stuff here, going back to the 80s. So we all knew each other, but then Keith came on board through doing that course, and he started performing. But Keith will be able to tell you all about that himself from his perspective.
Yeah. Well, when I started performing, I first came because Jed asked me to come down, and I've gone through many guises over the last 3 years and been a bit quiet lately because we've been involved in other things, haven't we, Jed? Yeah. Amongst them, writing a novel at the moment, and so my comedy's taking a back chair. But I find that I'm more involved, Jed and I, with the logistics of the comedy club. Yeah. Getting sponsorship, making sure people know about it, putting posters up, going around different venues, putting posters up, telling people about it. And it's really caught on, and we're getting now the last night, stand-up at studio night, we had to put extra chairs and tables out there, Jed. It was really good.
So remind everyone what night it's on.
Well, it's on the first Friday in every month.
First Friday of every month.
It kicks off at 8 o'clock. It's only £3 to come in. Yeah. And there's a bar on, cheap bar.
We have a raffle.
And we have a wonderful raffle.
Yeah. He said without a sense of irony.
Yeah. But no, it's just, and the great thing is, and it epitomises the studio in that everything that's on at the studio, no matter who you are, if you've never been before, you're made welcome. And Stand Up at Studio is exactly the same. Yeah, we have people who come on their own and say, what a lovely night. Yeah. They felt so welcome and so warm inside and had a great night as well.
That's one thing that from the off, I've always tried to make it a really inclusive, just nice, like non-threatening, because sometimes you can go to some comedy clubs or to comedy night and it can be a little, even as an audience member, because you think, no, I'm not going because I'm going to get picked on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But with ours, just the atmosphere, I've always tried to make it really, really just enjoyable and relaxed for everyone, so that everyone has a good time. So, that's another thing.
Okay, guys, well, thanks for talking about Stand Up at the Studio.
Thank you, John.
Oh, thanks for having us, John.
Cheers.
Yeah.
We're here at the studio. I'm Georgina Ridehouse. I do a lot of artwork in the studio. We have with us...
I'm Meg Stanners. I work at the studio. I'm one of the creative bunch, and it's my first time working on the art gallery, and we are joined by Tom Barton.
So how many... your exhibition's great. I've seen the exhibition. How many pictures in total have you got there?
14.
14, good. Meg, helped to install the exhibition, didn't you, Meg?
Yes, we had a few hiccups along the way, but we got through it. So what do you think, Tom, was the most difficult part of getting this exhibition all together?
Picking them out and then trimming, framing, hanging.
Naming. You had a bit of a name issue thing, didn't you, going on?
But mostly it was like last year when it was like half was done and then half wasn't done.
Yeah.
Until we finally got the time to get it right.
It does. You can't do it overnight, can you? An exhibition does take time and a lot of thought, doesn't it, Meg?
It does,
can't really just throw them in, because then it wouldn't.
And you can't just throw them in any order on the walls or anything either. Like with Tom's photography, we're surrounded by it at the moment, and you can just see there's a lot of nature and lots of difference between light and dark. So is that something you like to play with, light and dark?
I think it's just mostly experimenting what I can do on both devices.
Yeah.
You know, on what.
So what both devices do you use? You've got your phone.
And then got a camera.
Yeah, which is the
Canon PowerShot SX430.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it's only one of those little handy, tiny ones.
But it's still a fair amount to pay. How much did you pay for that one?
180.
180, but it's a good starter camera.
I wouldn't give a piece of advice and be like, oh, go get a big chunky one that's like 650 for your first attempt, because if you break that, there's 650 gone when you're just spending.
And that's good advice. And even if you lose interest, you spent a lot out there, haven't you, on the camera? Do you know the picture there, the Liverpool one? What was that taken on? Liverpool at night, is it? What's the title of that one?
As dawn commences.
So what was that taken on, your phone or your camera?
My phone, yeah.
Your phone, it's amazing. So how'd you get that little reflection thing going on?
Now the reflection or refraction, that was when I went to Whitby a couple of years back. I was messing around and asking my mum to like do a silhouette, and like the sea was out and he had the sun. I think it was becoming dawn.
So sundown was coming in.
And I just asked her to stand there to get the picture of the moon, the sun coming out, so the reflection was coming up to the pier.
Oh right, brilliant, yeah.
But then I told her to get out of the shot so I could just get
the sunbeam or whatever it is.
When I was reviewing them, I looked closely and I could see just a little silhouette of a boat in the distance.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, now if you try to do that, you'd probably have to wait time and time again.
Sit there for hours.
For the right moment.
Yeah. Do you find that sometimes when you're taking a photograph outside, you find little bits on, when you go back and look at them, you think, oh, I didn't even know that was there.
All the time.
Oh, that'd be quite interesting.
Like I done one of Liverpool, where it's near the docks. I noticed that there was two power shots mid-picture of two seagulls just going.
Oh yeah,
crossing each other. Yeah.
And I was like, any money you could not do that if you tried.
Well, how long would you have to wait and sit
or
there?
Or just do the multi-shot where you just hold.
Yeah. Oh, okay, like a paparazzi thing. Yeah. It's about my limit to photography when I see that paparazzi stuff going on. No, but your exhibition's great, and as Meg said, it's a lot of nature, isn't there, and animals going on.
What's your favourite subject to take photos on?
Most probably nature and landscape.
Should be, it's great.
Proud of the outcome.
Yeah, brilliant. Really good.
I mean, a lot of people might not know that you're only 18 as well, because the photos, you can suggest someone a lot older, because you've got a really sharp eye.
Just 18, so you've obviously taken these at a younger age, haven't you?
I think it mainly started around 14, I think. But it could have been around 15.
Yeah.
Because we had one time in here, or in the studio, this photographer known as Warren he come down and was like, I'll send you off and then come back with a picture. And it was when the stage lights were on, and like no one else would have thought to get down at one knee and position it, take the picture, you know, of like looking up.
Probably not at 14, no, definitely not.
But when I took it back to him, you could see that he was shocked or intrigued.
Yeah.
How like I knew what to do at such a young age.
Right, yeah. Like you're a natural kind of thing. Because he's a good photographer, Warren Miller. Isn't Warren Miller, is it?
Yeah, Warren Miller.
He's a good photographer, isn't he?
I mean, I swear it's in me blood.
So to get recognition of Warren is like great, because he does fantastic work himself.
I mean, I've got a couple of profiles on Instagram where it's like they've got the sunset in the forest, you know, like it, and they've like captioned it saying the ball of fire.
Hello, it's Wayne and Neil from Creative Writing, and we're here tonight to interview Project Manager Louise.
Hello.
Hello. First question for you. When did you first get involved with the studio and why?
In the capacity that I'm the project manager now, that was in 2012, but I've always kind of been a participant of the studio's events and things. When it was opened the first time round as a venue by the council, so it's always been in my life. I've performed here as in amateur groups and things like that, in minimum wage theatre company. But in terms of this time around as a project manager, it was 2012, and basically it kind of just needed an extra lead person in the team. So there was a team of I think 4 or 5 at the time, of music workers and building sort of premises supervisor, and it just needed someone that could oversee that a little bit more, with the directors being less able to be on site. Right. So it's kind of that kind of middle bit of referring to what the directors wanted and working in a practical on the ground level with the staff, which is what the directors couldn't do at the time.
Brilliant, thank you.
Can you describe what happens during a typical day in the week?
If there is such a thing.
I mean, the only typical thing is that there'll be something that you didn't expect. I think obviously it goes with being an old building from 1879. It's going to have its little quirks and potential moments of failure. But it could be that you come in and you find a leak, or it could be that you come in and there's been a delivery if the groups have been in. So it really is totally different. So you a lot of the time you're responding to what is already here, what the day has already brought in, because a lot of the time we work, say, from 4 o'clock onwards. Yeah. So there can be people in the daytime without a staff member in. Well, they've got staff, but it's not our staff sort of thing. They hire it and have their own keys. So you could be coming into something there. But, often what does happen is that people who you might not have worked with before or met before or haven't had much engagement with the studio could just walk in off the street and say, oh, well, what happens here? I'm really interested. So that's the joyous part of it. Yeah. I mean, even with the bits that are, difficult to do with the building itself are still glorious, because we've got a building and, that is a brilliant thing, and it means that people have somewhere to go so they can come and find us. So a lot of the time with arts projects and cultural activities, it's either online based or they don't have a home. But here at least people can get involved by literally just stepping foot in the door. So you could be walking into something, someone could come in off the street. We'll have sessions planned, tutors will come in to run the sessions. That'll be all different. We've got a structure, we've got a programme in place.
But it has to be flexible.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have like one-off events and things like that. So, sometimes we've had our sessions on a Monday, and then after them we've had an event as well, or that could happen on a Wednesday. So, yeah, you have to be flexible, you have to be prepared for anything. But I quite like that. That's what attracts me to it, really.
Yeah, thank you. It often seems to us that you're here. I was talking to Neil before, and it seems that you're just here every day. But I don't know if that is possible or not. But does your working schedule differ from week to week? Do you have to get a day off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I see. If we're working from 4:00, say, then I've got the whole day anyway, so it feels like a day off somewhat. Okay. I know a lot of people wouldn't like to work on social hours, but I see it as a social life as well. To be honest, I come here, I meet people, we get along, we have a good time, and we're working at the same time. So it's fabulous, really. So yeah, I mean, I do have time off, but I tend to have time off when I'm working somewhere else, so it's not really time off, but that's just me and what I like to do, and that's another great flexible thing about the organisation, is that it supports artists to go off and do all the things that they have trained to do or have created themselves, different projects, different art forms, and I think most of us that have been staff here have benefited from that flexibility, so we can carry on doing other creative things elsewhere, and that's brilliant because we can bring that experience back to the people we work with then.
Which of the many activities or events are your favourite?
Oh, this is hard. And if you can go back, or what you've enjoyed in the past. Or
I mean, I like it's nice now at this point, sort of 6.5 years in, whatever it is to see the things that we've kind of started some years back and that are still going, like the bazaars, for example, and that are somehow just sort of doing themselves now. You know, we know what works, we know what people want to see, and it's sort of just like, we had one yesterday and it felt like it was just, yes, people had got in touch with us about having stalls, it was people we knew before, a couple of new ones, nice, people on the day coming up. It wasn't the busiest, but we didn't expect it in February, but to be able to know that you've got people who want to perform at the bazaars, they come to you and ask, the stall holders come to you, so it's that great thing of being, knowing we're here, knowing we've got it regular, so people can ask and book in and know it's coming so that they can plan as well. So I like seeing those things that we started off and took a lot of risk with actually being things that are really successful. I like things like the Metronomes projects that we did last year, which brought together local songs, local artists, music. It brought together theatre, which is a thing I love, and also live music. And all the staff had different roles within it, and we worked with participants and volunteers, performers, to both, like the choir was in it, so they sung, we had performers acting, we had people playing music live, we had people in videos that had filmed things. And I'm bringing everything together like that, all different kind of performance genres and media, and doing it over, we did it over a month and a half or something like that. It was all improvised based on the lyrics of local songs, and that was really, really good, because again it was a bit of a risk, so I sort of led the drama side of it and had people dancing around with black bin bags at one point. They didn't question it, they sort of looked at me and went okay, but then actually it's one of the favourite parts of it now, the black bin bag dance. But we're going to do that again in the coming year. So Metronomes 2, it's called Metronomes after one of the songs that we used in it. So we'll be looking at getting another 6 local original songs, pieces of music, and having the same sort of inspiration. But this time we're working with the Catalyst Museum on it, the Catalyst Science Discovery Centre, to commemorate the moon landings.
The space program, yes. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah, so there should be lots of things that can come from that. Yeah. I like collaborative work. I like working with others and working with what's already happening out there and making things stronger together. So.
Brilliant. Thank you. Difficult one. You can't obviously run every single event yourself. Can you tell us about your team? Not that you don't have to name them, but how do you manage all these events and keep this place running? You must have a good team.
We've got a good team. We do all have different strengths. Like I really like organising. I really like planning, and I like kind of just going, we could do this. But I also like to be able to listen to people and try to make their ideas happen. So some of the events we do and that we know, not saying we always get it right, there's always something you can learn from it, always something you forget, to simple things like not filming it and things, and you go, how do we forget that? But that's to do with kind of it being in the moment and, somebody might not turn up or whatever, and you kind of goes. But we always try and learn from things and debrief after events, and whether that's with volunteers or staff as well. I mean, that's kind of equally important because, like for example with the bazaars and any sort of family events that we have in daytime, you couldn't run them without the volunteers. No. So we've only got a team of 4 of us that are staff, and then we've got additional kind of casual staff, and then we've got we work with freelancers to run the sessions, and then we've got our volunteers, and
they must be crucial.
Absolutely crucial, from sitting on the door and signing people in and talking to people about what they want and getting the feedback forms. You can't do everything, and why would you want to anyway? As long as I was thinking, as long as you can get the relationship right and the understanding that volunteers need to know that they are valued, obviously, that they're doing an important job, but also that it's part of it, and hopefully they're getting something out of it as well, and that's something that can help them in the future, or even if it's just they want something to do, whatever it is. I always think you've got to get the balance right of not relying on them too heavily, because it's not a voluntary-led kind of, well, it is because the directors are volunteers, but it's not, it's not kind of a place where it's just purely led by volunteers. It is about building the experience and the skills of volunteers so that they can potentially work with us, move on, go and do something elsewhere.
I think that's part. I spoke to a volunteer just the other day after the bazaar, and she said she came and asked to volunteer about 3 or 4 years ago, and she's been coming ever since.
Yeah.
And she said it's like a family.
Yeah.
And that she gets a lot out of coming. What do you do today? Oh, I'm going to the studio. It's something that they look forward to.
Yeah, and I think we're really, really lucky, and I do value that, and hopefully they know that, and they know they're really appreciated, because I don't think I'd enjoy coming as much if you didn't see those faces coming and those people wanting to help and wanting things and willing things to work and be successful.
And they stay, which says a lot.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, last question from yourself, Neil.
Why have you chosen to do this, and what do you get out of it?
I mean, in terms of sort of project management, as what it's called, arts project management, I was doing that anyway, and I sort of fell into that after drama school, because I got asked to apply to lead Warrington Youth Theatre. Not shot about 2 or 3 years. It took 2 years after I'd left drama school, so I'd been touring and doing theatre and education tours and things like that, as you do. And then this friend of ours said, this job's come up, why don't you apply? And I hadn't thought of it before. Applied for it, got it, and then sort of led youth theatres around Halton and Warrington and elsewhere for a good few years. And from those, then you're sort of working with arts officers in different boroughs, and they sort of say, do you want to do this? How about this? Apply for this project. So I kind of fell into arts project management just by chance, and then I think I am a bit of a bit of organising. I like to. Is it called control? No. I like a bit of organising. So that sort of seemed to sit well for me. So I was, up until working here, I'd been freelance since 1995 and started here in 2012. And I'd had sort of part-time heritage-based arts kind of project jobs that only lasted at the most like 2 years or something, doing performances with charities and what have you. So it'd been pretty good, but actually thinking about it was a really good time in getting this, because I think from then the work kind of, I did do quite a bit for I'd say about the first 3 years, and then it kind of the balance went and it was more work here. And also, I work as an actor as well, so having the opportunity to have the flexibility of here, as I mentioned earlier, then that's just perfect for me, and it's worked really well. So in terms of getting out of it, I love being with people, I love creating things, I love having the possibilities of creating things, creating opportunities. I'm not, how lucky? I can't, I'm so lucky. I really, really am.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. Right, thank you, Louise, for joining us tonight.
You're welcome.
Right, so I'm Meg. I'm here with the 19s. Now, you guys have been playing at the studio for quite some time now, haven't you? Mm-hmm. But for those who don't know you, if you want to say your name and what you play.
I'm Adam, I play the bass.
I'm Callum, I play the drums.
I'm Connor, I play guitar.
And we've got Cam, who's lead singer and guitarist as well.
Excellent. And why the 19s? What's that name about?
Honestly, there's no real reason behind it. We're just looking for a new name from the old name, and then here we are now, the 19s.
Okay, awesome. So how did you guys actually meet?
We've known each other for a long time. We met in school and college.
Yeah.
And then just decided to put our talents together.
Excellent. So do you all play like multi-instruments, or do you sort of set on one?
Yeah.
Oh, that works well then. And what would you say are your musical influences?
I've always listened to Chili Peppers and felt inspired by them.
Okay.
I'm just indie, a lot of the Killers I listen to, so...
It's a lot of John Frusciante and like the Foo Fighters and stuff like that.
Okay, so it's a bit of a mixed bag then, yeah. And now I know that when we had our studio open day, we did a bit of recording there. Is that your first recording, or have you done any previous recording?
As a band, it's my first recording. Like I've recorded previously a few years ago, but it was just like a small project.
Okay, and do you plan on doing any more recording? Have you got some new material? Have you been writing?
Got a few more
new
ones.
A couple in the works.
Okay, cool. So when you go to write a song, who's responsible for the lyrics?
It's mainly the lead singer, Cameron, but we all kind of contribute towards it and just work together to make a good song.
And do you have sort of any focuses on like what you're going to do the song about beforehand, or is it like very cliche? Or
we sort of come in with an idea and expand off that throughout the band, and then the lyrics just seem to come with whatever he's thought about in it, and we just put in what we think goes where.
Okay, brilliant. Well, before we go, if you want to just throw out some social media links so people listening can have a look at your stuff.
Well, we've got the 19s page on Facebook, haven't we?
Yeah.
The Instagram is...
The 19s band.
Yeah. And the YouTube as well, isn't it? Have we got YouTube?
You have got a YouTube, I've seen your videos.
Twitter as well, is that?
We've got Twitter, the 19s on Twitter,
yeah. Okay, so... Hayley, we're nearing the end of our first episode of our Only at the Studio podcast, and we'd like to know what, as our guest, have been your highlights of your time, not just coming here for the podcast, but coming as a comedian or a punter to the studio.
What was that show I watched with you? And it was great, and it was like sort of... mime, and what was that called?
Was it the Cabaret from the Shadows?
Yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed that. That was me coming as a punter watching stuff.
Yeah, fabulous show.
And then I've come here as a comedian several times to do stand up at the studio, and that's always been lovely and fun, boisterous sometimes.
One night particularly.
One particular night, very boisterous.
It's the only time we've ever barred anybody else.
Yeah. But yeah,
it wasn't Hayley that we barred.
No. Yet. But yeah, I always love coming here. It's great fun. It's a joyous atmosphere.
Oh, well, that's all we could ask for. John, what about you? What's your highlight of all the things you've been involved in at the studio so far?
I think Metronomes was the highlight for me.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what that was.
Well, it was. I think you dreamed it up. And you were seriously on drugs at the time. Because we had dancing with bin bags, which is...
Not just any bin bag, they were wheelie bin liners.
Really, yeah. The full Monty of bin bags, that was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was it. It was a collaboration of different things that we do at the studio, like the choir and the bands, and it was acting, and it was really, really interesting and good to be part of.
Great, and Metronomes 2's happening this year.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
With a space theme.
Keefe. What, are you going to move on to like recycling bags now?
Well, maybe. Yeah, that's, the ethics of those wheelie bin bags, perhaps, I get my comeuppance. Keefe, what's been your highlight?
Highlight?
Well, so much.
I just find it a great place to come. It's like home from home. I think the highlights to me are usually Christmas Bazaar, where I end up dressed as the old man himself, being probably the oldest here. I just, obviously I'm involved with Jed with Stand Up at the Studio, which is a great night. I do guitars with John, Jane, and James and people like that. But it's just, as Hayley said, it's a lovely place to come, and you'd always feel welcome whenever you come.
You got dressed up as
I got dressed as King Arthur in the Comic Con.
About dressing up, like, okay.
Well, I'll just take my high heels off because they're killing me at the moment. But I just think it's a place where you can be yourself.
Good.
Yeah.
Lots of people beginning with the letter J as well. John, Jane.
Yeah, it's the J group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have
And
a
Jason.
soft G.
Soft G.
Yeah,
Yeah.
soft
But I
G.
do have a J for my surname.
I hope you're getting that scene too. That soft
Yeah.
G.
Yeah.
Jane, what about yourself? Obviously, lots of different ways that you're involved.
I really am. I don't know why I'm speaking like this now. But I think it's my podcast voice. No, it's quite difficult 'cause we do so much stuff at the studio, but Metronomes definitely was fabulous. But just, I think it's important to say that in my other job, my other role, I work with people and young people and children and families that need something like us all, somewhere to go, somewhere to feel a sense of belonging. With everything that goes on at the studio, everyone's involved with it. And there's no sort of just saying this is a group for that certain person, it's a group for that certain person, it's a group for everyone. And that sense of belonging is brilliant for everyone. And everyone feels that they're very, what's the word I'm looking for? Treasured, I think. And once they come, we they keep coming. So it's, and like I said in the team meeting 2 weeks ago, I'm so boring now, but we need more places like the studio because in our job, it's brilliant that we can access this.
Yeah.
Lovely, fabulous. Jed, what about yourself?
It is a bit of a duel, isn't it? I always sort of big it up whenever I have to stand up and say anything. I really appreciate it. For me, because both, a few of us have been involved in this place in one way or another, putting plays on for far longer than many years. But for me personally, the best experience was that sort of chance encounter with Sam Avery, and that sort of completely changed my creative life in lots of ways. It really sparked, like this middle-aged spurt of creativity in lots of different ways, and now like sort of in writing stuff, and I'll always be, and also I always say this, I've never had really a bad experience with anyone I've met through the world of comedy or anything. I've met like great people like yourself, Hayley, and so personally, that's a great thing that I'm always going to appreciate the studio for. The other thing is the one that I'm currently just winding down now, which is this 3-part film, W, which essentially, this is one of the things that I love about the studio. It is also a film studio as well as a community hub and a facilitator of music and blah 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 and all that. You just essentially said to me, "Here is the keys. When we're not using it, have this, use it, to filming and stuff," and we did. And so I wouldn't have been able to make the film unless you'd done that. So that is, as a collective thing, that's my other favourite as well. Great stuff. But there's so many to choose from, so,
Yeah, brilliant. So we're going to wrap up our first ever episode of our podcast. Yeah. And it's called Only at the Studio, and it's called that because things happen here and you go, only at the studio, hashtag. And we did vote on that, it's democratic as well. But how, Hayley Ellis, apart from thanking you so much for giving us all your insight and your creative wisdom and podcastness, how does one end a podcast these days?
I usually end my podcast on a lull.
That's possible. We could do that, I think.
So let's talk about Matchbox Rugby. I'm only joking.
Don't worry, Hayley, we've got you set up. Phil's waiting outside to play you now. He's got it all set up.
I usually have a round up with a guest, just say thank them for coming, and then just end the podcast with a little jingle. Have you got a jingle?
Well, we've got some music that we used on our radio show, so I think we're going to carry on with that. That was created by Tim, one of our volunteers. So I think we'll stick with that bit of music, I think so, probably. But we could also have a little bit from the choir. Who knows?
Why
in
not?
the future, write our own.
I forgot to mention the choir, yeah.
Yeah, the choir's, it's always there for everybody to come along and de-stress. So, get distressed. Big thank you to Hayley Ellis, obviously, and shout out to all the posse here today. And you can obviously become a posse member. Yeah, it really is posse. So what we're doing in our next podcast is looking for a different word than posse. So do you want to say ta-da then, guys?
Goodbye.
Bye.
To find the studio on Facebook, it's at Studio Witness.
Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Studio Witness.
Find us online at www.thestudiowitness.org.uk.
Find us on YouTube at The Studio Loose.